I was completely wrong in that. I have no experience with running low overdrive screw cars.
Aaron,
I've been
can
to
you say that
92
just one more time? I don't think the world's ever heard that. Stevie Fast said I was completely wrong.
Wrong. Oh,
Hi guys, Brett Hoare here, talking all things NHRA Pro Mod today. Well, there is a lot to talk about. We are approaching the midway point in the season, the 5th race of the year, coming up at Topeka in just a couple of short weeks. And a short weeks they will be if you have been taking notice of what the guys are going to have to do to change their setups to suit the new 2.0 NHRA Pro Mod rules. We didn't get to see 1.0. That didn't ever make it to the water box. We've been able to catch up with a few of the hitters, a few of the stars, points leaders, some in an upcoming interview soon. We haven't been able to catch up with so far, and we wanted to get this information out now. So we will have a follow-up to this. And I think Stevie Fast Jackson wants to have a second go now that 2.0 is official. Please sit back, relax, and enjoy some of the words from all of the NHRA stars and Lonnie Grim from the NHRA Tech Department.
We have the one, the only, the man, the myth, the legend, the inventor of Stevie Care, Mr. Stevie Fast Jackson, and of course, far more importantly, we have Nitro on camera as well. G'day, mate. How are you?
Nitro is excited to talk about the performance of the Fuel Tech sponsored NHRA Pro Mod Series presented by D-Wagon, and it's good. We're at Galot Motorsports Park testing today, and excited to spend some time with you guys. Nitro, what do you think? Nitro's on the fence. He's struggling because he's been a lifelong Roots Blower fan, and now he's questioning his, the center of the earth. He don't even know where it's at. He thinks it could be flat.
All right, Nitro. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. We need to talk a little bit about NHRA, and then we'll get to Stevie Care and screw blowers and whatever y'all are doing. Mate, it's we're coming up to the halfway point in the season. We've got got Topeka in a couple of weeks. I guess, the elephant in the room is the screw blower, so it's going to jump in and out of our conversation. I didn't want to ask you this first up, but screw blown or roots blown at the next race?
Don't know. So we got the introduction of Stevie Care last week, so we are testing those combinations back to back at Galot Motorsports right now as we speak. We ran the Who Charger yesterday. And we're going to run the Roots blower today and see which one is more competitive. And I don't know which one I'm bringing. I might bring a turbo car. You never even know. From now on, I'm going to bring whatever everybody else has got. So I'm keeping it tightly wrapped under my hat.
Well, Nicole and I were actually talking about you this morning on our walk around town, and one of the things we talked about was, which one's he going to bring? What's he doing at testing? Because we all knew you were testing there yesterday and today. And I said, well, a smart man like Stevie, I'd imagine he's probably taken both cars and he's going to back them, see what these rule changes do. I mean, you've lost 10% on the Who Charger. You've picked up, was it 25 pounds on the Roots?
Yeah.
So did you find 25 pounds or have you back on your lettuce diet?
So 25 pounds is a token, what I call a token. It's like where you just want to give a kid a popsicle and tell him to shut up and go away. It's not really enough to matter, but it'll net some performance. I went and spent $10,000 to get 9 pounds out of the car at the chassis shop, and then we're back. I've been since we've been Who Charger racing. I can just eat whatever I want because we got 200 pounds of lead in the car. So yeah, now starting as of the implementation of Stevie Care, I'm back on the lettuce and water and no bourbon diet, so we can get some weight out of the car. These things are heavy. They're like tanks. They're not like the light race cars we used to build. So it's hard sometimes to get weight out where you need it. But we went to RK Racecraft last week and got the jigsaw out and cut out a bunch of parts, and I think we can get down to weight.
So strangely enough, with a conversation between two guys like you and I, we're jumping around a bit. You made the joking comment about, I'll take whatever everyone else has got. I'll bring some turbo cars. I'll bring this. I'll bring that. Now, a hero of mine from back in the day, Bill Coolman, actually ran a nitrous engine and a supercharged engine at the same event, swapping between qualifying rounds. Now, yours is actually two separate motor vehicles. Is that correct?
Yeah, for sure. But a quick story. 2008, Orska, Easy Street, South Georgia Motorsports Park. I qualified with a Pro Charger, showed up on race day with a nitrous combination, and smashed the field. And that's pretty exciting when you get there. They just tear me down all the time, and I'm cheating. I got nitrous everywhere. So I was like, shit, if y'all think I got nitrous, I'll show you. So I drove back to the house 5 hours, changed the powertrain out in the car to a nitrous steel, duct taped some nitrous brackets in there, put some nitrous balls in it, drug it back, and smashed the field. So I'm pretty versatile. So with Pro Mod, you're not going to be like bolting the nitrous motor and what we got out there. But you maybe have some cars laying around that may fit the bill.
So we might see you swap between a roots and a screw between rounds.
You never know what may happen. From now on, like, okay, so the Who Charger runs good all the time because it's got the manpower, and the roots blower runs good when it's dry. So, like, if I go outside and I need, like, a coat, I'm going to be running the roots blower. If I go outside and I'm sweaty and I need some Daisy Dukes on and a tank top, then it's going to be Who Charger weather.
Nobody wants to see you in Daisy Dukes and a tank top, mate.
Me either. It would be terrible. What do you think?
All right. So
all let's talk about rules and stuff has got the beast where he's taking them as a Siesta over here. I don't know if y'all can see that.
No, we've got so far off track that Lightning's abandoned, Nitro's abandoned us, so it's all good, mate.
You know what happened? I said that I maybe would bring a turbo car, and like immediately he's like, "What's that disease where people go to sleep? Narcolepsy." That's what the beast
gone.
Talking about non-manly power adders, and if it's not the month of June, he'll get tired on you in a heartbeat.
All right, now back to reality. You're sitting third in the points. You are a couple of hundred behind the ever unchaseable Pro Charger that y'all have been crying about, that you're 2.5 numbers away from all year. You went out, you put the screw on it, and you've made a big jump. You're now only 200 points behind. You've been vocal. A lot of people have been vocal about the Pro Charger. I can see that you're busting to get at it, mate.
I got a vice grip on my mouth.
All right, just give me a second. There's 5 power adders currently in this class. Number 1 in the points is a Pro Charger. Number 2 is a nitrous engine. Number 3 is Stevie. We don't know what he's running. Roots, screw blown. Number 4 is a twin turbo, and number 5 is a screw car. How can you possibly complain about what's happening with the parity in the class? Because
one race ago, I was 10th in points with a roots blower. I've only showed up with a screw one time. I want you to tell me where the closest, what's the highest position car that's run a roots blower all year in points? Where's that? Take a peek and tell me.
A roots all season?
Yeah, somebody that's just running a roots car. You can just pick the fastest.
Mike Thielen, 8th.
Oh, 8th. Oh, good. All right. So where's all the rest of them? Like, scroll down to 25. Tell me how many roots blowers we got in the top. We haven't got 25
to scroll down to.
Okay. How many roots blowers we got in the top 10?
2.
Oh, good. So we got good parity there, right?
Well, if you stop crying and put yours back on, we'll have 3.
Here's all I can tell you. When they let that Pro Charger in, they smashed us by 0.2. They were bitching when they had us. They set the world record on the first run down the track. All right, with a store-bought motor from Walmart. When you go out there and you cover the field with a Walmart racing motor by 0.2, all right, and then you get to dominate for 18 months. 18 months now, not 2 races, not 6 races, not even a season. But when you get to dominate for 18 months, you don't think we should just be a little upset that I put 300s on the field on race day and got smashed 10% of overdrive? Holy shit. Now, it's what I wanted to do because the Who Charger needed to be reeled back. So there's 2 ways to race. You got chess, which is what all the smart people do to race. And then me, I come in with a wrecking ball. I'm playing checkers and can't hardly count. And I don't know if I do it the right way, but I think the fans owe it. We owe it to the fans to run these cars hard as they'll go. And I think I felt like we were going to have some Who Charger domination if everybody kept sand leaking out. So it's necessary, not crying about parity, but you got to look at the average roots run. The roots blower has not been competitive since 2019 when they smashed us. And they smashed us because we were dominant. In 2020, we won the championship. We didn't outrun anybody. We just outdrove everybody. Not taking anything away from Chris Thorne and Jamie Miller. Those guys have a combination. They test a lot. They run a lot. They run their car as hard as it'll go. And the results show. I respect that. And those guys are having a dominant season. 10 rounds of NHRA racing. We're going to need a miracle, comet, and an apocalypse to catch that man.
Now I've had a clamp on my lips because you've opened 4 cans of worms in one sentence. So you go out there. Okay, we all thought when you put the screw on it, rightly or wrongly, and mate, jump all over me if I'm wrong, but I read into it that, okay, here comes Stevie. He's going to smash the record, smash the field, smash the screw charger. But y'all were crying that at 75 over, it wasn't going to work. With the 320 gear or whatever the rear gear was, it wasn't going to work. It's never going to work. It's never going to work. You put it out there and you smashed it. Yeah, so that's one question.
I'm a blower car racer, so there's never any crying. I don't have any turbo cars. No whine.
All right.
I said, I was very vocal and said that thing would not be competitive at 75 over with a 389 at the weight it's at. 100%. That's why I didn't put it on right away. I was completely wrong in that. I have no experience with running low overdrive screw cars.
Aaron, can you say that one more time? I don't think the world's ever heard that. Stevie Fast said I was completely wrong.
Wrong. Oh, somebody. Oh, looks like Doug Winter's about a 620. I think he come loose in the middle. So everybody is out there testing the roots blowers right now, try to get performance. Me and Nitro in here talking to you about why we suck. I was definitely wrong about the screw deal. I have went on the record to say that. I did not think it'd be competitive. Believe me, if I thought it'd be fast, I'd have had it on at race 1. When Stan Shelton came out and ran, he didn't run exceptional, but he ran better than the Roots car could at the first time that they went out. I was like, okay, if these guys can do it, I'm going to at least head that direction. Yeah. I race for a living. I don't have other business and I don't have other sources of income. My sponsors pay me to win. So when we show up and we just always qualify 8th for a couple of years, that's just not good. So I was wrong on the 75 over. I can tell you as of yesterday that 10% of overdrive slowed that thing right on down. I don't know how much it'll be quarter mile because we're testing an 8th mile track, but it's definitely 3 to 4 slower to the 8th in the same conditions. So I think that's a good move by NHRA to try to at least get it closer. Ultimately, I want to run my Roots car. I know we got a lot of Who Charger fans out there. I want to run my Roots car. If NHRA continues to try to exterminate that combination, I'll run something else. But my goal is to try to make it where the Roots blower car can run good.
It's a very emotive topic, isn't it? I mean, it's you either love screws or you hate screws. You love turbos or you hate turbos. And now having 5 power adders, I mean, we've got everybody covered.
Right.
So
it's very difficult. So every racer in the meeting in Indy last year voted completely against allowing the screw blower to be allowed. We had a meeting with NHRA. We had a 100% vote to not allow the screw blower in. Not one racer said they wanted to have it. At least they won't do it publicly. They may do it in the backdoor dealings. Yeah. But I was vocal in the meeting and said that the screw blower would be the nail in the coffin of legal door car racing for the quarter mile. And I've been on record to say that. I didn't think we had a good handle on where the rules were, and now we threw the other thing in there. But it's in now. The cat's out of the bag, and if there's an advantage there, I'm going to take it. The guys that are converting, the problem with allowing a new power adder in, what kills Frank Manzo told me this in the staging lanes in Virginia, and he's right. Frank Manzo's a smart guy. He said what hurts any class is change, and he's right. So when we allowed the Pro Charger in, we didn't get one new car. Not one. We just made everybody spend $3 million. So the companies that got the $3 million are happy, right? But the racers aren't. Well, now we got the screw blower. We're not getting a new car. We're not getting one car to come in. We're just making all the Pro Charger guys and all the Roots blower guys spend the $3 million to go screw blower racing. So who wins? The manufacturer, and who loses? The racer. So you got to decide how long the racer's willing to lose to spend the $3 million every 2 years to keep stirring the same old shit around. NHRA, the people making the decisions at NHRA are either don't understand race cars or they're too proud to ask for help. And that's going to step on some toes. You got some technical guys who are very smart, and then I think you have some other people that whatever the technical guys tell them to do, they just do 180 degrees the opposite. But sometimes I don't understand the thought process. With that said, I'm excited about where the class is going. All of this talk, whether it's good or bad, absolutely fuels interest. I got people and sponsors calling me about NHRA Pro Mod that haven't called me in 2 years. So whether it's good press or bad press, like me or hate me, we need you to come out and participate in running this class. Competition in NHRA Pro Mod is the toughest door car racing on the planet. I don't care where you want to go. If you think you're a superstar at one of these other organizations, come over here and we'll show you how average that you are. and I mean that. Guys that are great at what they do struggle here because it's hard. If you want to race with the cream of the crop, we got a great bunch of guys. We all bicker back and forth, all the racers. We're like a family out here. Any of us will do anything for any of our people, and it really is a tight-knit community. When we stick together is when it's great. Shootout coming up in Brainerd is going to be absolutely awesome. I said this week. If you've never seen 3 people dressed up like Santa Claus doing a keg stand on a pontoon boat on the return road, you haven't been to Brainerd. It's a show like I've never seen fans
Mate, you're talking to an Aussie. What's a cake stand?
A keg stand, man. You never been to college? You never were around in the 80s where you like stand upside down on a beer keg and like get some funnel action going on. It's a keg stand. Yeah, man, you gotta do that. It's an American thing. Like probably they call it like a what's y'all's Australian beer? It's probably like a Foster stand or something. Like when next time you're on a bloody walkabout, get you a Foster's and do a Foster stand. How's my Aussie?
That was a terrible South African version of an Australian accent, mate, but that's all good.
Normally,
all right, so
Cross is British. Normally,
you gave me a great segue there. It's pretty exciting. Yep, we're talking about the class, whether it's good, bad, indifferent, whether you agree, disagree, doesn't matter. It's in the press. We're all talking about it. You and I are here. You should be on the racetrack right now, but you've taken the time out to come and talk to us about it. Then you've got $60,000 on the line for Pro Mods at the zoo.
I think it's $60,000 or $65,000. NHRA Pro Mod is the richest door car racing series there is on the planet. It pays good. It pays good to qualify now. And when you stack on a shootout like what we have coming in Brainerd, you can win $60,000, $65,000 in prize money in a weekend at the zoo. I mean, come on. It's a race within a race. The fans are excited about it. I'm going to get that money.
So there may not be 2 cars in the trailer headed to Topeka, but there may be 2 cars headed in the trailer to Brainerd.
I'm taking 2 cars for the rest of the year. Always. I may even get another trailer and bring the nitrous car. I might have all 3 that I know how to run out there. And then anything I got that I can get bolted on there and bring it out, we're going to have it. I promise you there's going to be 2 cars in the trailer in Topeka and Brainerd. If you walk outside and need a coat, the roots blower's coming.
You said about the nitrous car. I mean, Ricky's known for perhaps voicing that the rules don't necessarily suit him. He's coming second. He's run it up 2 out of the 4 races.
Ricky could be 1,000 points ahead in points, and it still wouldn't be fair for the nitrous car. So everybody's tired of hearing that. Like, nitrous car is hard to run, hard to race on Sunday. That thing has the highest power to lowest weight percentage of anything out there. The reason there's not more of them is it's just expensive to run. It's a $150,000 motor versus a $50,000 motor, and it's very meticulous.
You've touched on difficult. I was going to let you go, but mate, you've opened another can of worms. The boys at DI, Wes, Buck, and of course Mike Carpenter, son of the legend Charles, they were talking about, are we going to get to a point where, and this has happened in the rules, correct me if I'm wrong, over the last 4 or 5 years, as you said, roots cars will go well at these type of events. Nitrous cars go well at these type of events. Turbo cars went well at those type of events. So the rules were changing based on individual events. Are we going to end up with people like you who have the ability to tune all 3 or 4 options? Okay, we're going to take a roots car to these races because we know that the air is going to be dry and it's going to work. We're going to take a nitrous car to those rounds because that's going to work. We're going to turn up with a screw for these 3. You're going to end up out of the 5 power outers, you're going to have 4 of them in the trailer.
The problem is it's not good for the class to do that.
No, that was my point.
Can do that, and there's not a lot of guys who want to do that, and ultimately it just gets too expensive. If you were serious and you gave me no budget, I'd have all 5 power adders ready to go, and I would get my little weather station out the week of the race and bring it. I really would, but I don't have money, so I don't have way to do that, and ultimately we don't need that happening.
No.
So we want to try to stave away from doing that. We have to slow down the development in this class if we're going to make it sustainable. You can't continue to spend the amount of money we're spending changing combinations every week just because somebody don't like the rules this week and continue to thrive. So we need to get to a place where you kind of got one combination and can run it. That's the goal. But to do that, everybody's got to be honest. Everybody's got to have the same goal. And I think
has Lonnie got the rules pretty close to right now? Are we done?
Oh, I think we're closer. Lonnie is a smart guy, and he has a good heart, and he's got the best interest of the class at heart. And I mean that. When I'm bashing on these guys, we don't always see eye to eye, but I think he has the right intent. I think the rules are closer than they've ever been. I would have liked to have seen the Roots blower back where it was in 2019. It still wouldn't be as fast as what the Pro Charger guys are running now and what the screw blowers are running now, but it would be at least closer. We got halfway there, so we got half of it.
What does that look like, Steve? You want some more overdrive back?
No. I mean, ideally, I would like 16 and a half and 2600 like we were. We still went. I went 64 with a 4, I think, in 2019 and 300 feet of air, and it's still the quickest Roots blower car pass in the world. And it's still not as quick as where some of the other cars ran in Gainesville this year. And that was 40 pounds lighter than what we were with 2% more overdrive. So if you can't get there at that package, how do you say we have parity? And that's what I mean. Like my quickest Roots blower run ever in the world couldn't have won the final Gainesville this year. And we're 40 pounds heavier than we were then and have 2% less overdrive. So that's what I'm talking about, parity. If the quickest one that ever has been made in the world can't win, how do you win? With that said, I think the goal of the NHRA tech people is to make it where we can just play with weight. And that's when we finally get there, when we finally get to where it's 25 pounds in and out of the car, 10 pounds in and out of all combinations, that's when everybody can quit spending money, and that's when it's gonna get good. That's when there'll be no more places to hide, right? You can't just go write a check and get a 10th on the field. And when there's nowhere else to hide, that starting line will tell on you. And that's where we want to get, as to where that's where you got to go win it. So I think we're closer than we ever been. And I think we've been moving in that direction for the last year and a half. It's just we moved really slow for a long time, and now we're kind of moving really fast. But I think everybody's heart's in the right place, and I'm excited about where we're going for the end of the season.
Awesome, mate. All right, speaking of going fast, let's let you go fast out on that track. Good luck with the Roots. The Roots is dear to my heart. I'd rather see the screw kick back to outlaw where it belongs, but that's another conversation for another day.
I'm with you, baby. I'm with you. I'm about to go take the Roots. If that thing runs, I ain't gonna tell you. I got an ET in mind. If it gets there.
Come on, Stevie. You're never shy. What's the number?
I can't tell you, because I can't tell you what the screw blower run yesterday. But if it'll run that, it's first string on deck. If not, she's gonna be on the bench for a little while.
All right, mate. Good luck. Be safe. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Good afternoon, guys. Welcome to a quick chat with the one and only NHRA Pro Mod standout, Doug Winters. Good afternoon, Doug.
Good morning. How are you doing this morning?
I'm well. It is only morning. You're right. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's get to the burning question. Stevie Fast decided he'd blow up the world last weekend. We all saw it coming. I think we knew that he's the sort of guy that'll put the work in. And going back a step first, when NHRA announced the screw blower, it was not met with a lot of love, to be honest.
No, it wasn't. They asked all our opinions, Indy of last year, and we all said to pretty much the T, don't do it, But NHRA thought that it would help them bring cars in, because now if you look around all the other series, PDRA, Midwest, Northeast, Pro Mod associations, everybody there pretty much has a screw anymore, and they have rules to let those screws compete with Roots. So their thinking was letting in the screw blowers would increase the car counts at the Pro Mod events in 2022.
Bring some of those guys across from the other sanctioning bodies.
but it hasn't. I mean, I stand Shelton, but he was coming anyway. He wasn't really. I mean, he's at PDRA. He came over, but he still runs PDRA, and I think he was going to run a Roots anyway. But when the screw became available, so he really didn't bring him in to run a Roots. I mean, to run a screw, he was going to come over anyway.
Yeah, he just brought his screw with him once it was lit. So yeah, he showed up to Charlotte, put a great performance forward, made the final. Who knows what would have happened if he had been able to stage it correctly? But I think that sort of put a little bit of a squash on it's not going to run. It's not got enough overdrive. It's got too much gear. It's got too much weight, yada, yada, yada. Yeah. Out he comes, and certainly no disrespect to Stan, but a bit of a new kid on the block. Like he's not a stalwart of NHRA Pro Mod racing, and he goes very, very well with the screw, making the final, as I said.
Yeah, but when you get Steep Eddy behind you and Proline, with the with their resources and trying to figure it out, and they figured it out. Hands off to them for doing that. But they put in the time and the effort, and they proved that it would work. So when they did that, because a lot of guys even before that, and I think Steve will admit as well, he didn't think it was going to work. And some other guys tried it as well, and they couldn't figure out how to work. But they just didn't put all the effort into it to make it work because the roots were so familiar to them. Whereas Stan looked at it as a blank sheet of paper, and Petty did, and they went from there and found out how the combination could work.
And it would be very remiss of me not to say that, of course, it was a Australian designed 4.9 Noonan in there, so that helped them. That helped them as well.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So obviously that opened the door, as you said, made people look a little harder at the screw. Because before we go into that, take a step back. Was there some? Obviously, there was a camp that said it's not going to work. It's not going to work. But were there some camps that were like, oh, here we go again? The Pro Charger. I'm going to talk to Chris Thorne a little later today, hopefully. 3 out of 4 wins. Second season of the Pro Chargers running away with it. Was there any feeling that, well, as Wes Buck says, if a screw charger turns up, it destroys everything else? Was there any chatter around that side of it?
Not at the time, because Stan was right in the middle of the pack, right? Yeah, upper echelon of the pack, but he wasn't blowing everybody away. So, the other combinations, Ricky running nitrous and with Tyler Miller and all those guys, they were right there with Stan. So it was, it was like, okay, well, maybe NHRA did get it right as far as the rule set, because Stan was out there competing with us, and in the middle of the pack, he wasn't leading the pack. So it was like, okay, well, this is cool. So, but on the flip side of that, I think it turned into people saying, hey, maybe we can even do better than Stan's doing with this, i.e. Stevie Fast.
Yeah, okay. Well, you touched there on NHRA getting it right. I mean, I've got the point standings here, and you'll know better than I, so correct me if I go wrong. But we've got Chris Thorne, Pro Charger, obviously leading substantially, over 100-point lead with the 3 wins out of 4 races. Second car, the totally non-competitive, they'll never be able to keep up nitrous car, Ricky Smith. Steve Jackson got a foot in both camps. He's won some points with a screw and won some points with the roots. Yeah. Lyle Barnett, twin turbo, comes in at 4, and Stan Shelton, screw blowers 5. So anyone who wants to argue that NHRA aren't doing a good job, they've got a fairly steep mountain to climb.
Yeah, and they continue to look at the data, right? And they're not only looking at, who leading the points, but they're also looking at each qualifying session, the weather based on it, and, the average of the car class associated with that power out, or how they're doing it compared to the other ones. Unfortunately, or fortunately, Ricky's the only nitrous car out there, so we have to take him as the standard for nitrous. But you have 4 or 5 Pro Charger cars that they look at, and we have some Roots cars, and then the screw blower cars, and then the one Lone Wolf as well with Lyle Barnett and the turbo car. So they're trying to keep it a level playing field as best they can.
Okay, so the points play out that it's a level playing field. Obviously, not all of us are privy to that intimate data of what each Pro Charge car's running in the splits you guys get at the end of the day. Pro Charger sort of got snuck up on in this latest rule change as well. I mean, the big hullabaloo, all the noise was about Stevie Fast and 257 miles an hour, 570 flat with a 1, right, using the screw. But when they brought out the screw rule, they've also hit the Pro Charger with a 500 RPM limit.
Yeah, and that's caused some angst with the Pro Charger guys, as you can imagine. Any car that you put in, any car that is potentially hitting a rev limiter at 9,500, on a quarter mile could be a lot detriment to the engine. And I understand their concerns, and they're going to have to do a lot of research and spending money on converters and gear ratios to make sure it doesn't hit 95. And as far as that goes, as you know, with rev limiters, sometimes they start kicking in around 94. 93, 80. So it's not a complete, 95 and this shuts the motor off.
Yeah.
It starts kicking in before it hits that 95. So they're concerned with that as well. So, but it is what it is. We'll see if NHRA adjusts that rule form associated with it, and to help them out as well from destroying things, because NHRA don't want anybody to hurt anything. They're just trying to draw them back and make sure that, from a competitive standpoint, that everybody else has a level playing field.
Understood. And slinging more weight on them is not a safe option either. I mean, they're already too heavy.
Well, and if you look at the SFI certifications as far as the chassis, they're right up against the level that is good for the 25E certification for the chassis. So they're right up against that. They can't add any more weight. So maybe something next year they'll look at reducing the size of the supercharger, so they don't have to have that much weight on them, because NHRA doesn't want them to have that much weight either. So they're trying to figure out how to pull them back without all that weight on them.
Understood. All right, well, let's talk about your sponsors race coming up and the D-Wagon shootout. I mean, this is some pretty exciting news for guys who there's been a lot of backroom chatter, I guess, around the fact of why the car count number has gone from 45, 50 to 17, 19 throughout this season and last. And one of the things that was thrown around was money. You guys weren't racing for enough. It's costing you too much to enter, blah, blah, blah. This would alleviate that for the upcoming race in Brainerd.
Yeah, it's not only is that, we've got together as a group, and really NHRA's worked with us. Every dollar that we raise from sponsors goes back to the purses of the drivers. So none of it, NHRA's helping us do that. So we're almost at a level to where we can present $35,000 purse per event. And then on top of that, with the D-Wagon shootout, we're looking at another $25,000 on that Saturday event for the shootout. So Brainerd's going to be worth $60,000 purse come that weekend. So it's pretty exciting to have that big a purse spread over 2 days for the cars to compete against.
That's a very impressive purse. Very cool. Now, of your 16, I see you've got 3 alternates listed. Have you been in contact with these 16 guys? Are they all going to show?
They're going to try. Some of them's got conflicts, so we're working on trying to get those there. But as the rules state that we did with the D-Wagon, as long as you've got points and one of those guys don't show up, then the number 17th is going to get in. The number 18th guy is going to get in, and the number 19th guy is going to get in. So as long as you got points after Topeka, you're able to get into the shootout. So right now, if I had to guess, those 3 alternates will probably get in. So, but there are also cars that I hear are starting to show up at Topeka that's not even in the points situation right now altogether. And they're doing that just so they'll have points to come to Brainerd. So our hope is still that we'll have 16 cars showing up at not only Topeka, but Brainerd. So, because we kind of did the point situation leading into Brainerd to see if we could get a lot of cars coming into Topeka as well, because it's,
Gotcha.
Midwest show. So we're trying to get that car count up and fall over to the Brainerd race as well, since they're back to back.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So the midway point is obviously that's coming up. These guys can add to this. What have we got? 19, I guess, at the moment. So right. If anybody has got their pro mod in the shed and decides they want to go run for $60,000, they can turn up and get those points in Topeka and qualify. As you said, it'll be the 16 highest pointed cars on the property. Is that the best way to say it?
That's the best way to say it. Correct. So yeah, we're hoping that creates more enthusiasm for people to come out to Topeka and run Brainerd the following weekend.
Yeah.
For the chance to run for the 60,000 for the whole weekend.
Excellent. All right. What's your personal tell it behind the tool shed opinion on what is this rule change going to do? Are we going to see everyone unhappy? Are we going to see everybody happy? I mean, no one is. It's never everybody's happy at NHRA when you've got 6 power adders now, and one of those power adders has the nitrous has two different options within itself.
Right.
It's pretty hard to keep everybody happy, and if they're happy, that means they've actually got an advantage. So somebody else is not going to be happy. Where do you see this upcoming race landing performance-wise?
Yeah, well, Pro Mod's always been, everybody's never happy, right? Pro Mod. And that's something beneficial for the class as well, because you just, you don't want it to turn into pro stock where everybody's got the same chassis, the same motor combination, etc. So it's cool for the class to be that, but you're right, not everybody's happy all the time, and probably nobody's happy until the guy wins the race, and then he's happy until the next weekend when they get a rule change. So we're hoping that shows up in Topeka and Brainerd, that the Pro Charger guys will figure out the combination to get to that 9,500, or NHRA is going to do something to help them out as well. I don't know what that might be, but and obviously Stevie with the screw blower, they pulled that back to 65. Nobody knows what that's going to do. I guess.
Well, it wasn't going to work at 75, and that didn't quite work out the way they planned. No,
that's true. So, what's 65 going to do? I have no idea. I don't even think Stevie knows until he gets the car out on the track this coming week to see what it's going to do. It's a lot of more gear ratio, I guess, and who knows with the air that it's going to be in Topeka and Minnesota, 65% may really hurt him. I don't know. It's just hard to tell at this point.
And that's if he turns up with a screw, not turns up with the roots, based on he won, right? He got what he wanted. He went out there, he blew the scoreboard down and penalised the combination that's not his preference. And
well, what's interesting though, I guess you could have both, right? I mean, you could make one qualifying temp on a screw, put the roots on it, and go make another qualifying temp, right?
Well, I am going to show my age here. Bill Coolman.
Yeah, he had a nitrous motor.
He had a nitrous motor and a blown motor in one car. I think that's where Stevie's problem is. If I'm not mistaken, they are two separate motor vehicles, the screw car and the roots car. So he couldn't do that. But Bill literally took the nitrous engine out, put the supercharged engine in, took the supercharged engine out, put the nitrous engine in between rounds of qualifying and between rounds of racing. So it has been done. Yes, sir.
I'm pretty sure Stevie could change and put a roots on top of the screw blower car at this point if he needs to, but we'll see what happens. But it'll be fun and interesting to see how it turns out in Topeka anyway.
Yeah, very true, very true. All right, well, we better let you get back to your diet program and lose that 25 pounds and find that balance. More importantly, hopefully that'll see you at the pointy end up in Topeka.
Yeah, we hope so. Like I said, we got to get this thing back together, going testing. We broke a valve in Norwalk, so we hurt a head. So we got that fixed from MBE, sticking that back on today to go testing on Tuesday and Wednesday at Galot, and just move on from there.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. The very best of luck, and please pass our thanks on to the Steiner organisation. They are doing a wonderful job of supporting my favourite class in drag racing. So it's very cool for them to be stepping up all over, and we look forward to seeing you bring home that Wally.
I appreciate it. We're trying. I would love to get one this year, and one of these days, I could tell the crew, we're going to screw up and win one of these things. So one of these days, it's going to happen. We've made semifinals galore, but I've never made it to the final in a Pro Mod event. So that's the next step.
Awesome. Thanks for your time, mate. Have a great day.
Thank you.
All right, race fans, we are super excited to be joined by the crew chief from Mike Janis Racing's stable, I guess, for lack of a better word. Two of the cars that are roots blown out there, fighting the good fight for roots. Currently number 8 and number 10 in the world standings in NHRA Pro Mod. Mr. Mike Janis Jr., good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Brett. How are you doing?
Man, we're good. We're good. Sun shining, skies blue. Not at a racetrack, but it's about as good as it gets if you're not at a racetrack, right?
That is true.
Now, Mike, we're coming up to the halfway point in the NHRA season, with Topeka coming up being the exact halfway point. Lots of hustle, bustle, argy-bargy in NHRA Pro Stock this year. Probably more excitement and drama than any other season that I've been close enough to witness. How have you found the season so far?
I mean, it's been a great season so far. We've made a lot of headway, a lot of great sponsors for all the races in the class. D-Wagon came on big. Fuel Tech came on big. We got a D-Wagon shootout up in Brainerd. So, I mean, if you look on paper, the NHRA Pro Mod Series is stronger than ever. $35,000 per event. No other Pro Mod Series in the United States or anywhere that I know for that matter pays that kind of money. So we have the highest highest purse out of anybody. So it's been a good year. At the beginning, it was a little rocky. Just trying to get everything up to snuff, and everybody came together and really made it happen.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have worked as a group collectively very hard this year. I mean, that's fairly obvious for most people to see. We'll dive in a minute into some of the nuances of what's happening with rules, and it's a class it's fraught with danger, isn't it? I mean, since you guys have been, your dad's been there since the start. I mean, we all used to watch Pro Mod when there was a blue bottle on one car and a black belt on another, and that was the parity. Now we've got 5 different power adders, one of which has 2 variants. It's going to throw curveballs, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, 5 power adders is definitely a lot to babysit. But they're trying. NHRA is trying to do the best job they can, maintaining rules, and you got some new combinations in there. So at the end of the day, it's not like it used to be for sure. But the biggest thing is keeping the interest of the class up and staying up to date with all the different power adders, and being able to keep the car counts at a full field.
Well, certainly that's the upside of the controversy, isn't it? I mean, we can talk about some negatives of lower car counts or rule changes, throwing guys curveballs mid-season, but here we are. Every man and his dog that's got a pulse and is interested in door car racing is currently talking about NHRA Pro Mod.
Yeah, like I said, it's I think it's well and better than it ever has been. Purse wise, the communication's getting a lot better between the Pro Mod teams and NHRA, so that's a plus. Like I said, fully funded for the entire year. We could say that $35,000 a race, fully funded per event, biggest in years. So it's like I said, it's made a lot of headway, and we've had full car counts at every race, and in today's economy, I mean, I don't. Everyone says, well, you don't have 30 cars like you used to. It's not. There's nothing like it used to, right? I mean, look at Pro Stock, look at Top Fuel. Everyone's 16, 18, 20 on the high side. So if we can maintain our 16, 18 car count, we'll be happy. We're doing the best job we can as a group collectively, and I think that's the best we can ask for.
What you have dropped off in perhaps quantity, you certainly couldn't argue that the quality's dropped. I mean, it doesn't matter who you speak to. If they want to be negative about NHRA Pro Mod, the easy way to bring them back around to the positive is it's still the best of the best. If you're anybody worth your salt and you want to run a Pro Mod, it's still the NFL. It's still the king of the heap. Yeah,
and I think that's why I got a little bent out of shape in the beginning of the year when people started putting a lot of negative stuff out about it, right? I mean, at the end of the day, we get to race in front of 50, 75, 100,000 people during a 3-day weekend. We're on Fox Sports. I don't really know what more, somebody can ask for. We have the safest safety safari on planet Earth. I mean, you're on fire. You're getting put out before you even get to get out of the car. So it's the safest place to race. It's the Super Bowl. Every weekend you're there. And like you said, it's the NFL. We're in the NFL right now.
Awesome. Now let me dig into you guys a little bit on a more personal note. Other than Stevie Flip-Flop Jackson, not sure whether I've got a Who Charger or a Roots, or maybe I'll bring a nitrous car next week. I'm not sure. Other than him, you're the standout Roots blown combinations in the field. Your house cars are currently 8 and 10, respectively, with Mike Thielen and JR Gray. JR had an amazing entry into the class last year when your dad had to step away. Struggling a little this year. Now, are we going to put that down to the Pro Chargers have got 2.5 numbers on y'all, or are we going to say you guys are struggling? Or talk to us about where Roots blowers and in particular Mike Janis is this year.
Yeah, I mean, on paper, it looks probably worse than it really is, right? I mean, we started out the season with a Gainesville with JR's car, no qualifying. Everybody just had to step up to the plate, and we went out and went the second quickest of the entire round, and ended up having to race Chris Thorne, right? Yeah. So it just happened to be that, he went at 68, we went at 72, and it just got put on the trailer. I mean, had we got by him, I think we would have been holding the wall at the end of the day. Then we move on to Charlotte. We had a solid outing in Charlotte, made a lot of good, clean runs, and, I think it was a 76, 77, 78, and 78 in the second round, down to 8 cars. We lost there, and Moved down to Atlanta. Didn't have the greatest time there. It was, weather delayed with that deal. And then just got in Norwalk, qualified number 2. Would have been number 1 had Stevie not shown up with that screw blower. So, I ended up just losing a close race in the second round. So on paper, with JR's car being 10th right now, I don't think it really. I think it looks a lot worse than it is. We made a lot of good runs. He's doing a great job driving, and on paper, like I said, it's worse than it is. So there's a long season. There's 6 races left. I think we can get really good these last 6 races, better than we have been. And then that championship's still within reach, right? Chris has a couple, 2-3 bad races out of those 6, and we come out strong. And you look on paper, you get 3 wins, and he goes out first round. You're right in the points lead, right? So anything can happen in 6 races. So we got to stay positive, keep JR positive. And, we were able to bring on Mike Thielen this year from Seattle, Washington. He's in our camp right now. So just been, amazing job driving. Far surpassed anything that I would have anticipated. Been friends with him for about 3 years now, and been a good customer and turned into a really good friend. And it definitely exceeded where I thought he would be right now. And we just need to give him a better car. He's just, that's it. We're just not doing the greatest job. We have some good test sessions, and he's doing a great job driving. We just need to give him a better car. And we definitely been fighting a lot of gremlins, and some stuff out of our control, some stuff in our control, a lot of gremlins. And we actually just unloaded that car this past week and purchased a new car, and so that car will be in Topeka.
So Mike will be in a brand new race car in Topeka.
Yeah, Mike will be in a 69 Camaro for Topeka.
Okay, all right. We'll dig into that in a second, but you made me think of something with you're saying on paper. I'm going to play devil's advocate and throw this out there because I know you just quoted us some great numbers, and when you look a little deeper, there's obviously you guys have got a lot more knowledge than the layman out here sitting in the grandstand watching. But on paper, we've got 5 power adders. We've got a Pro Charger leading, a nitrous car second, a screw come, roots come, screw come, who knows, Stevie third, Lyle Twin Turbo 4th, and Stan Shelton screw 5th. And 2 roots in the top 10. That's 20% of the field. We've got 5 power adders, so 1 power adder is 20% of the power adders. It's as level as it gets.
Yeah, definitely, no doubt. Like I said, it's there. We're like I said, we're running as strong as we can right now. So it's like I said, on paper, I'd like to get our cars, get them up the ladder and really try to, make some headway here.
Okay. Qualified number 2, you mentioned there also at the last race. That's got to give you Roots guys some hope, some light at the end of the tunnel. It's not just about the power adder. It's about how smart the racer is, how smart the tuner is, and how well you race your car and race your track. Yeah.
Yeah, you would think so, but you got a lot of other guys complaining right now. A lot of other Roots guys complaining right now that they're, complaining about our engine combination and things like that. And so it's definitely motivated. The fire has been lit on this end like you've never seen before. So it's been lit. I'll tell you that right now. We are on fire right now. We are beside ourselves, but we are on fire right now, ready to fight.
So watch this space.
We're not going to be the same MJR you see out there anymore. It's just there's no more Mr. Nice Guy. It's we were definitely taken back on a couple of things, and you really know who your true friends are. I'll tell you that.
All right. Well, we won't dig into that. We'll just see how that unfolds. Super duper positive is the Steiner involvement in NHRA Pro Mod this year. Obviously, Doug Winter's primary sponsor has come on as a class sponsor, and now the D-Wagon shootout up the race after the halfway mark up in the zoo. You guys are going to be racing for $50,000, $60,000 that weekend.
Yeah, it's going to be really awesome. What a great way. It's Steiner's hometown. Anybody that's never been to Brainerd, you go there once, you're going back. So I mean, it's miles of campgrounds, and it's gonna be a fun time. So D-Wagon, Steiner, everybody, they stepped up big for us, and brought this shootout to the Pro Mod. So we're very, very excited to be part of it. First time for an NHRA Pro Mod shootout. So, but what better way to do it than up in Brainerd in their hometown?
Absolutely, it's excellent, and I think everyone needs to be congratulated who's involved bringing this deal together.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's, we don't want to get political, we don't want to get harsh, but the Pro Chargers all got kicked. Everyone was complaining the Pro Chargers had an edge, 2 or 3 numbers. Then everybody collectively seemed to say, behind closed doors at least, the screw's never going to work at 75 over with the weight they hung on it, with the rear gear they mandated. Stevie turns up and runs a 70 flat, 257 miles an hour. Instantly we get Stevie care, and that's possibly damaged the Pro Charger. We'll see what happens with a 10% reduction in their overdrive. How much do you feel, I know it's not your realm, but how much do you feel the 500 RPM drop in limit for the Pro Chargers is going to hurt them / help you?
Oh, you won't see that. So, right. I mean, there's rules came out, rules have been reversed. It'll be publicly stated probably, today sometime.
Okay.
I was one of the advocates. I stuck up for the Pro Charger cars. I didn't think it was right. Being on the committee, I didn't think it was right to hit these guys with 500 RPM, right? I mean, I thought the racing was pretty close the way it was, other than the screw, coming out with a new combination. And like we all said, we wouldn't even have taken the chance to run that screw with those rules. We didn't think that it would have been something, doable. But hats off to Stevie, came out and showed the true hand of the motor, right? There's other guys running it for a little while, and Stevie at least showed his true hand and showed what it's capable of. So, like I said, but I was an advocate for the Pro Charger deal. So I was the one kind of got the ball rolling backwards to, it's not right, guys. It's just not right to hit them like that and to do that. And so now we'll be the ones getting kicked.
There has been that scuttlebutt around this afternoon, and I wasn't going to go there with you because I know it's not official yet, but by the time this video out, it will be official. So we may have to put a little disclaimer at the start of the video to say that the new rules are this, and this, which were announced after we talked to you all.
Yeah, that's totally cool.
We've talked to a few guys, and everyone's basing their answers to my questions on the rules as they are at 2:50 p.m. on Wednesday.
Yeah, because I don't want to be the guy that says you're not supposed to say anything, and then I go and say something because I have a obligation not to be able to say anything. So
no, that's cool. We're not going to press for that. We will wait for this evening or tomorrow's announcement, and we'll work around that. So other than that, I mean, NHRA Pro Mod, it's still, as we've discussed, it's the place to be. You guys are doing a fantastic job of holding the roots blowers up. You've pulled an Erica on us. There's no more nice Erica anymore. Well, that worked for her. She's a runaway in pro stock. So if there's no more Mr. Nice Guy at Janis Motorsports, we better keep our eyes open.
Hey, we're gonna certainly do our best, and like I said, we're known for being the nice guys and that. But now, I mean, it was a big kick in the gut. That's all I can say. It was a major kick in the gut, and it's just very sad deal. But we'll be fine, and we'll just keep working hard and always know who your friends are.
The amount of research, mate, you guys put into these blowers every time there's a rule change, reducing the overdrive, etc. Would you like to see the roots get 2 or 3 or 4% back in overdrive, or is that just going to cause you to spend another $100,000?
No, that's really that was a talk as far as it's all really just mumbo jumbo, right? I mean, you take these things from 14.5 over to 16.5 over, certainly going to make a difference. I mean, anybody that tells you that they're going and spending massive amounts of money on research and development to go from 14.5 to 16.5 is just full baloney. It's not that. I mean, you put it at 16.5 over, things going to run better. Hands out of the gate, and you'll see sooner than later, actually. So,
okay, I'll.
For certain combinations, put it that way.
All right. Let's leave it at that. All right, mate. Thank you so much for your time. we're super excited to see what happens with everybody, but now especially you guys at the next race at Topeka. Hopefully we might get up to the zoo. I've never been to the zoo, and we might get
definitely the place to go. You won't be disappointed.
With the race within a race, I think, you know, it's for a Pro Mod fan, it's awesome value. They're going to get to see 2 races in one weekend. Do you think that's going to put pressure on some of the other teams that perhaps aren't as seasoned as y'all with your dad and you? I mean, qualifying is qualifying, right? You put down 1 or 2 good numbers and you're in the field, well, then you swing for the fence. And if it doesn't stick, it doesn't matter. You're still good. But when there's $10,000 up for grabs here, you guys are going to approach qualifying the same or different?
I think what we'll do, as our team, we try to be a little conservative at first. I believe Friday we get, I think it's 1 qualifying run on Friday, and then on Saturday is when you get your next qualifying run, and then it goes into the D-Wagon shootout. Actually, the second round of qualifying is the first round of D-Wagon shootout. Yeah. So we'll try to be consistent and conservative. Our first Friday night run, just get some data, and then all hell breaks loose on Saturday. Everyone's going to be going for that special D-Wagon trophy, and hopefully get the hoisted in front of the grandstands on the come Saturday night.
Awesome. All right. Well, the very best of luck to you and your 2-car team. I'll be certainly rooting for you. I'm a Roots boy through and through, and screws are awesome. But what is it? They belong in alcohol funny cars or in outlaw pro mod, not in NHRA legal pro mod. But they're there now, and we'll see what this rule change shakes out in the next 12 hours.
Might be sooner than that, but yeah, thanks, Brett, Nicole, Reaction Time Media. Appreciate the opportunity to talk, and pick it up the Brainerd if you can.
Awesome, mate. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Have a good day.
We're joined currently by, now correct me if I'm wrong, Lonnie, but I believe you're the NHRA National Technical Director. Is that the correct term?
That is correct.
Thank you so much for your time, Lonnie, on a very busy day for your good self.
No, I appreciate you, Brent, and everything that you do for Pro Mod as well as just drag racing in general. Your passion for the sport is well executed and noticed.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. They're very kind words. Mate, when I contacted you initially, as I said, this was going to be a bit of a mid-season recap leading up to the mid-season race coming up in Topeka, and then, of course, a discussion about the awesome shootout, the D-Wagon shootout that has been brought to us by Steiners at the following race at the zoo. And in the meantime, while we've been trying to get this interview organised, the world's blown up in NHRA Pro Mod. Stevie Fast went out and went 5.70 at 257, knocked the world off its axis, created a Stevie care. Y'all reacted the way we thought you probably would. And I'm not sure are we allowed to talk about the fact that there's been a 2.0 version of that, or are we going to stick to the 1.0 version at the moment?
No. We can talk through the 2.0. That's the deal about us is obviously there's a couple other places that we have to post those changes, but for the majority, the Pro Mod world or Pro Mod distribution has been informed, as well as the Pro Mod Advisory Council. We want to be transparent in this information. We do think it is we think 2.0 is the best move for the category. And so we can talk through that.
All right. Well, we'll come back to that. We'll start where we wanted to start. NHRA Pro Mod, it's, NHRA legal Pro Mod, for lack of the term that people like to bandy around. I mean, us old guys who have loved NHRA Pro Mod from the first days of it was a blue bottle versus a black belt. You still had parity issues back then. The nitrous guys said they needed help. Blower guys needed help. There was always mid-season rule changes. That was with 2 power adders and, back in those days, basic technology. We've now got 5 power adders, one of which has got 2 variations. Your job, mate, I applaud you for coming on and letting me grill you. I wouldn't have your job for all of the money in the world at the moment.
It's it has its moments, but at the end of the day, as long as we're moving forward in a positive manner, it really, the good days way outweigh the bad days. So And really, there's no bad day because I'll talk to people that are very passionate, that may be very frustrated at the particular moment, whether it's at the track, off track. So nonetheless, I don't take any of it personal, and usually at the end of those conversations, they realize that we are after the same goal, and that's the health and wellness of a particular category, and in this case, Pro Mod.
So to get to that, obviously quality communication is key. How do you go about quality, fair, rational communication with 100+ alpha males and some alpha females in there, all pitching their case that I need more help, my combination's behind, I'm 2.5 numbers behind this one, that one's outrunning us all, why are we coming? I mean, you add to that the external stresses of Bidenlation, or whatever you want to call the fact that we're paying $6 a gallon for diesel fuel, we're paying more for airline flights, we're paying more for food, we're paying more for accommodation. These guys are getting hit left, right, and center. If they feel that they're spending more money than they budgeted and don't think they're going to win in that alpha male voice, how do you balance that? How do you manage that? How do you play circus ringmaster?
So again, we try to take the personality and the frustration and the emotion away from it. So the decisions are truly made off of real live time data. Now that data can also be skewed by any particular crew chief that is in holdback mode. I'm going to keep 3 degrees of timing out. I'm going to slow the tire down real slow, and then I'm going to gradually bring it up on the tire. The one thing that helps me and my whole group of internal rules committee is that most of us have a racing background. For me, it's pretty extensive, and I'm very humbled by that for the years and different experiences that I've been able to gather over the years. I am pretty knowledgeable with race pack data, with fuel tech data, with Holly data. So can you hide it? Maybe to some extent, but you can't hide it all the time. You might hide it in the data, but you can't hide it in the on track. Obviously, if you're in holdback mode, then you're putting 590s on the board. You're not putting mid 570s on the board if you're in holdback. Now, you may be in holdback in different areas of the racetrack, but again, that's going to look at the race data, where the drive shaft's at a quarter, a half in, what's our drop in the shift point, what does the converter look like? Again, it's not for me to share information across from team to team by any means, but we gather that information and look at it and truly just go with a fair amount of experience and knowledge to know that there is numbers left in this run. Again, sometimes people are lost in how do they improve their own program. And then there are others that when you go, hey, why you got 6 degrees out right here? Well, it's just so nonetheless, it's a process of looking at that data, not only on car data throughout the power adders of different teams, but also looking at the on-track data, the front, mid, and back splits. Obviously, there are certain combinations that will run real hard down low, and they kind of run out of power. Some are a jet boat, some are a V-drive. And so, obviously, the turbo car runs a big back split, doesn't run the front half as well. So, nonetheless, it is take that expanse of knowledge and education over the years and kind of put it together to come up with a good program, a good rule set, and my whole internal rules committee and NHRA is on board with all of that. So
I think that was awesome, an explanation of today. We've been bouncing around a little bit. You've put some definitive numbers and information in there. I went to bat defending you guys, or maybe I was putting a fox in the hen house. I'm not sure which way I was trying to stir the waters, but you've got 5 power adders. Number 1 in your points is Pro Charger. Number 2 in your points is a nitrous combination. Number 3 in your points is Stevie, I'm not sure what I'm running this week, flip-flop, Roots screw. Number 4 is Lyle Barnett twin turbo. Number 5 is Stan Shelton with a screw blower, first time in NHRA. On the face of that, you can stand on the top of Mount Olympus and beat your chest and say, man, I've got this thing nailed. Y'all are fighting over the top 5 are the 5 individual power adders. Screw blowers have got, if we take Stevie out, Roots blowers, if we take Stevie out and say he's now a screw, but after tonight he might not be, you've got 2 Roots blowers in the top 10, so that's 20% of the field. 1/5 of, you've got 5 power adders, so 1/5 is 20%. That equates. You've got parity nailed to the wall. And then you go and make 2 rule changes in between.
You're correct, but let's expand that database a little bit. Let's go.
That's a simpleton way of looking at that. But that's the facts, Jack. There's no denying that is where we currently are in NHRA Pro Mod.
That is correct. You can take the one run from Charlotte, 4 wide, 4 power adders, and they all go down there and light the scoreboard within 100th of each other. That is one run, one quad that did that. Yeah. Again, you can take that. You can take the current point system, where people are at, what they've managed to do with the time they've spent in Pro Mod for 2022. And you can establish a fair argument that there's no change needed. On the other side of that, when we expanse the data and you go back and this was a number that was given to me and mostly confirmed, I think it's 27 events. A Roots blown car has won 1, but for 27 events, it's been 80% of the power adder. So 80% of the field has ran a Roots blower for 27 events, and Roots has won once. It's only won once in the last 13. So when you look, those aren't good numbers at all. That the Roots car has been, and most of all the Roots combination guys will tell you that they are on the ragged edge. The one thing about the Roots combination, when you look at it, even though it's 80% of the category, it also aborts runs 68% of the time, because they are on the ragged edge of, they got to be strong down low to have anything to run out back. So it is the most aborted power adder as far as aborted runs on racetrack, which then again kind of tries to skew the data. So our database was using, for a long time, it used 6 flat. So anything worse than 6 flat, we called that an aborted run, was not a maximum effort. Now we've moved that to like 585. And so it really starts to try to look at the cream of the crop. If a turbo car doesn't go 585 that particular event, it's really not included it is on the average page, but it's not included to say that it made runs worth any parity adjustment. They were just off kilter that particular weekend. So as this moves along, it's very fluid, and so we continue to try to address and do a better job with utilizing the data, and utilizing data not just from the fastest car. It's we try to average that data where it has a good pool. We also do look at the quickest runs made and by what power adder, and by what whether it was a qualifying effort, whether it was a race effort in eliminations. If number 1 lines up against 16, but number 1 hit a home run ball in qualifying, he may not feel like that he needs to hit that home run ball to run the 16 qualifier. Sometimes that does bite you in the butt to think that way, because at the end of the day, most of the pro mods that are on property have a fair opportunity to outrun you in the other lane.
Fair choice. I haven't been able to get a hold of Ricky Smith yet, but I'll try and paraphrase a quote from him many years ago. Ricky brings a smile to everybody's face.
He does.
He got slammed by an NHRA Pro Mod, like 2nd race in or 3rd race in, 50 pounds, if my memory's not correct. And how, as a drag racer, who we are, right? We eat, live, breathe going faster. I have a saying that my wife thinks I'm crazy. I say, we're not going to stop going faster until we get there before we leave. Because every year somebody goes faster, whether it's swimming, running, motor cars, drag racing, doesn't matter. Every year there's a new record set. So the logical conclusion of expanding that out is that we will get there before we leave one day. Now, if Ricky spent all winter busting his butt and doing the research and being a good drag racer and finding an edge with inside the rules, only to have that taken away at the stroke of a pen, it's fairly disheartening and discouraging for the true inner drag racer. How much of that is given to you? I mean, you just threw at us that, you average it out and you look at all of it, but there is only one or two nitrous cars. There is only one turbo car. There was only one screw. How much weight is it a weighted average based on numbers? You talked about 80% of the field's got a roots on it. So how do you balance all that?
So in Ricky's case, obviously, if you go back in past history, we had Chad Green, we had Jeffrey Barker, we've recently had Tyler Miller, and those were all nitrous cars. Barker ran under the 903 program, and so it was really just recently in Pro Mod did we introduce the 959 combination.
Giving you 6 combinations now rather than 5.
Right, exactly. But still, yet the with nitrous, there is, and I think I can speak for them. I wouldn't say anything Ricky wouldn't say. The fact that nitrous is a 20 plus year old technology, that there are very minute advancements that move forward in a nitrous car over a quite expansive amount of time. Then you throw a new power adder in the category that may have been too large when it came here. Nobody teed it up and hit the home run ball with it to show its potential. Maybe the potential nobody even knew the first time it went down the racetrack. I was at Orlando for the World Pro Mod, World Pro Stock Challenge, the Door Slammer Nationals that Wes Buck put together. And saw Justin Bond, what he was fixing to do at Gainesville the next week. And that was the first Pro Charger on the racetrack. Yeah. And if I remember right, it went mid 570. At the time, a young man that was in charge of NHRA Pro Mod was with us on site. And him and I went to Justin Bond's pit. They had to pull a head off. They did nick a valve. And so they had to pull the head off. So we measured valve. We looked at converter. We checked the rear gear. We checked the car for all of its legality, knowing that next week it's fixing to go to Gainesville and kind of set the world on fire. It went to Gainesville in a little bit of holdback mode. It was in less holdback mode the week before with me in Orlando. Nonetheless, it's still, that power adder probably was a little bit large when it got here. Nobody showed its true face. And not that they even knew what the true face of it was when they first got the power adder. They finally had to figure out camshaft, and then it's went through a myriad of changes. We slow the blower down. So then we got to speed the motor up. So then we got to loosen the converter up. Then we got to make the valve train better. And so it's went through a myriad of changes that's been very costly to the Pro Charger or to the centrifugal customer. And that's one of my goals in arriving at NHRA, and it hasn't happened quickly. But my hope is that as we have this conversation right in front of or the start of 2023, our parity adjustments are no longer a pocketbook. Our parity adjustments is call the plumber and buy some lead. And we're looking at 25 or 40 pound swings. And I really would like to say that 2023, I want Pro Mod to just go racing. We're going to look at it after every event. The deal is that I say that what is my job or what is our job as NHRA and the rules committee, what is truly our goal of the job of writing parity rules. That job consists of nothing more than making sure that every power adder has ample opportunity at a championship. It's not a jackpot club. It's not a come to this race because the weather, is better for my car. We're going to have those customers. That's fine. Yeah. The deal is for the guy chasing the championship, Did he have a fair opportunity through what Mother Nature gave us for the entire year? Because different power adders will run different in different conditions. When we go to Gainesville and have, some magical Magic Kingdom air and in Gainesville, obviously we'll see the performance, and the nitrous car may not be on top of that. If it's dry in Gainesville, they will not be on top of that. Yeah. But we go to Topeka in midsummer and it's 140 water grains and it's 97 degrees. If there is any racetrack available, the nitrous car should be the one to bet on in Vegas. I mean, it's just so based on the conditions, our job truly is to make sure that across the board, everybody has a ample opportunity or a fair opportunity at a championship. If by the end of the year we look at that and we can answer, hey, did everybody have that opportunity? And the answer is yes, then we did a good job. If we can do that without parity changes through a season, then that would be the ultimate goal. We've got 5-6 power adders. It's not Top Fuel. It's not Funny Car. They run one platform. All their blowers are scanned. They can't do. There's a lot of things they can't do. You have teams that do a better job with the parts that they have than other teams, or they're in a better financial position. But at Top Fuel and Funny Car level, they're all in a pretty good financial position to do what they do. Pro Mod is not an inexpensive class to run, but it's a lot of working man's effort. We have very few people that can say, hey, all of them say I'm a professional Pro Mod racer, and that's well received. But that's not all they do. They go home to a business. They have other people and employees that count on them. And so it is a little bit different. And for that, we want to make sure that the effort that they put forth to race in the category at the end of the year, they feel like it was fair.
All right. Excellent. Thank you. Now, I've been very, very kind to you and allowed you. I've defended you a couple of times today and allowed you to have yours. Now I'm gonna step into the ring and take a swing. Screw charges. You brought them in I wasn't in the meeting, but according to all that have spoken, 100% against the vote of the existing racers at the time. They were asked their opinion back before you brought screws in, and they all said, no, don't do it. You did it. The public line from NHRA around it was to bring the car count up. We want to be able to get the guys from PDRA, NMCA, the Haney deal out in the East, et cetera, et cetera. That hasn't worked.
It has worked in the Stan Shelton situation. So Stan joined us.
He was coming with a roots.
Quite possibly. You may have better confirmation of that than we do.
I'm speaking out of school because he hasn't told me that directly, but I believe he was going to come, whether he wanted to go NHRA, because I'll now defend you in the same breath. It is the pinnacle. It is the Super Bowl. It is the NFL. If you want to play door car, power adder drag racing, you are the gig. You are the best place in town to go and do that. No doubt, no one's going to argue with that. I don't believe ever. But I will put that you didn't pick up those guys. You've just made some guys maybe think about switching, and therefore back to that pocketbook we spoke about earlier.
And that's a very fair point that you make. The one thing that I call it shoot holes in or throw darts at, or however you want to say that. The one thing about it is, if you'll also remember some of those early conversations, whenever it's a 390 gear, it is limited to a 3-speed transmission. It is 75% on quarter mile at a pretty heavy weight of 2,740 pounds. So it was 100 over roots. If you'll remember some of those early conversations, I had early conversations with guys that had 20 plus years roots experience, whether that was Jason Scruggs, Todd Tutterose, others that have a lot of experience in screw charger. And we had those tough conversations that they're like, Lonnie, I know you've been around this a long time, and I know that you've looked at a lot of data, but my gosh, who in the world come up with this? It is going to be like 2/10 behind. And I understand there's a starting point, but my gosh, who wants to spend the money for this combination to even see where it's going to go, to wait on you to make a parity adjustment? Okay, fair enough. Well, we see Stan Shelton show up. They went and tested. Scruggs has tested. Others have tested, and they found struggles in making that combination work, get it on the tire, get the tire happy early with that 390 gear. And so what has happened with that is when Stan showed up, he showed up pretty well ready to show up, and didn't set the world on fire, but showed that it is a competitive combination right off the bat. So when we talk about others that may have not showed up yet, I'm still not concerned about that. We made some significant changes. Other things that was keeping people away was the mandatory tunnel, the mandatory this, that, the shutoff device, the shutoff switch system that was mandated. That most common, those other cars and outside organizations didn't have that because it wasn't mandated there. So I think it took a little time and still will take a little time for a screw customer that's outside looking in to go, hey, my gosh, that was faster than we thought it was going to be. Obviously now with the 570 257, there's some adjustment, but the adjustment's a pulley. Again, my large goal and I'll mention it again, the large goal in NHRA Pro Mod, no matter how many power adders we got, is that get us to a point where we can move some weight in a particular combination and call it a parity adjustment and move forward. And it doesn't really get into the pocketbook. And unfortunately, it's taken quite a while to get in that direction. So again, I'm not worried about what hasn't showed up with the screw. I think there's a large picture of over the years, and I probably won't be when I say this, it probably won't make a lot of friends, but over the years, from the outside looking in, NHRA has been like this little country club. At one time, it was a pay to play, and guys still feel like there's a fair entry fee, but it does race for a decent purse. It has nice sponsorship now at the efforts of the people within the category as well. That they have addressed that and diligently worked through that this year. Again, I think it's the word that it's not a country club. It's open to everybody. We just need you to fit these rules. The rules get to a point where everybody looks at it and go, well, I don't know what combination to bring. And whenever I hear that, I think that, my gosh, we got to be pretty close.
We're getting close.
And you may have a customer that can choose to run a turbo this week and a nitrous car next week and a roots blower and a screw blower. And good for them if they can do that. Most of the customers in Pro Mod are stuck to one power adder and try to make the most of it. But just trying to explain where we're at and what we see, we hear less negatives about people not coming, and we are starting to hear more positives about people that are working towards coming to join, building a car, waiting on parts. It looks like you guys have finally got some things in order. And so it's a much bigger picture as to what is the invitation. And it's not just whether there's a screw blower involved or not.
Can you give us an update, please, Lonnie, on the latest, greatest, who's got to spend what, who's going to be in the front, what's 2.0 change? We'll go through 1.0 change and then the 2.0 change that got made before that 1.0 even made it to the racetrack.
So let's talk about 1.0. July the 7th, we released a rule set that this was post Norwalk. It was 10% effective to the screw blower, so we reduced the overdrive from 75 to 65% for the screw blower. We looked at Roots across the board, knowing that Roots was going to need some help. We gave them a 25-pound deduction across the board. And then there was Pro Charger as a yearly incremental, as some information from Norwalk that still had some positivity to it. We looked at making a 500 RPM reduction, which they have a 10,000 RPM limit. We looked at making and posted a 500 RPM reduction in that RPM. So it would be 9,500. Let's move to 2.0. Pro Mod Advisory Council is a group of people that are across all power adders in the category. They are the spokesperson for their power adder. There are 6 people within that group as well. They work with NHRA on a number of different items, including parity. Usually we take our idea to them, we present it, they spitball through it, whether we spend an hour or 2 on the phone, and then we leave there with them knowing what it is that is our intention. We talk through if it needs to be adjusted with that particular adjustment. July 7th, there was not a lot of input. I know it was kind of laid in their lap pretty quickly, and we left that meeting really in agreement that this was not the perfect, but it was a decent direction to head, and we had data to support that change. The Pro Mod Advisory Council got together, as well as with all the team owners, everybody that was pulling money out of their pocket to race this category, all got together and got on a call, talked amongst themselves, then asked us if we would reconvene on a call with them late last week, which we did. We walked through the 1.0 changes, and they said they had some input they wanted us to give us, and talk about a different direction, which ended up being 2.0. So we came to the agreement across the board with those guys that the 2.0 version is as follows. Screw supercharger still will receive a 10% reduction from 75 to 65 overdrive. The 4.9 bore space Roots supercharger will remain at 2640 and will remain at 14.5% overdrive. The 4.8 bore space Roots supercharger, which is anything less than 4.9, will also remain at 2,640 pounds with no weight change, but will receive 2% and move to 16.5 overdrive. The nitrous, both the 903 and the 959, will receive 25 pounds off reduction. So that puts the 903 combination at 2515 and the 959 at 2545. Again, when we look at this, we look at it as a good compromise that is more of a positive direction to get parity within the category, and less of a much deeper pocketbook direction of 1.0. So nonetheless, we have made the adjustment. We're good and solid with the adjustment. We've applied the adjustment in theory to the data, and the data looks like it's going to be good when we get to Topeka, and when we crown a winner at Topeka. We think it'll be the person that's done the best job at that particular event. We'll look forward to moving to Brainerd with the D-Wagon shootout, and then on to Indy.
So the one thing I picked up out of that was that the 25 pound, oh, I picked up a lot, but the one thing that pricked my ears up was the 25 pound weight advantage that the Roots supercharger was going to get is neither the 4.8 nor the 4.9 are going to retain that. Is that correct?
That's correct. So take the July 7th announcement and call it rescinded.
Okay.
So,
and all you've done in replacement is given the 4.8 another 2% overdrive.
That's correct.
So if I'm a 4.9 Roots guy, I'm no better off than I was 3 weeks ago.
You're racing, and if you go back and look at that data, if you go back and look at those runs, you have to improve the 4.9 combination down low on the bottom part of the racetrack or the front half. If you make any improvements in the front half, it runs in there decently close to within a couple hundredths of what Stevie's blast was. Now, that particular round, if you go compare it to Pro Stock, that was the best round for Pro Stock. They all went fast. It was there was 39 water grains. The barometer was high. Now, when we got to Sunday eliminations, it was 100 water grains. And then even worse for the final, because the final got postponed by rain, and the guys had to push up underneath the bleacher, sit there for a while. The racetrack took a little beating in that rain. The conditions changed by the time they rolled them out and put them in the water box. And again, sometimes you know, as a racer, if you'll just leave me alone and let me race, I won't be my own worst enemy. And when you give me time, sometimes I'll make bad choices, and that may have been what we saw with the nitrous car in the final of that event. They made a few adjustments right before they pushed it out from underneath the bleachers for that final round, and that adjustment may not have been in their favor. Okay, all right. Well, thank you so much for your lines there, giving us some clarity on what 2.0 looks like. So 1.0 never made it to the water box. So 2.0, I think we'll all be watching with very peeled eyes and bated breath. That the bottom line, that what I've picked up from everyone is they all believe that the communication is getting better and better. You are making the decisions with the right intent. They're just bloody hard decisions. Like how as we've discussed this entire conversation, how do you make 5 power adders with a 6th variant all as equal as possible when you might be better at tuning a screw than I am? Ricky might be the only man on the planet that can make a nitrous car run competitively at NHRA at the moment. It's a big ask from your side, but I think that the win, if I was sitting in that horrible, horrible position you're sitting in, is that they're seeing you want it to be what it can be, and you're working towards that. Albeit maybe too slowly, but it's a lot easier to correct a small chip than to take a big swing and then have to eat your dust and go back and start again. Whoops, we've lost him right at the... Yep, he's back. Sorry about that. No, that's okay. So as I was saying, it's easier to correct the small changes you're making than you make a big sweeping change because we want to get there quickly, and it was a sweeping change in the wrong direction. No different to tuning one of these cars. No, and over the years you can look back. There's not been too many rules that's ever been posted publicly on Racer that has been rescinded. Whether it's pride, whether it's they thought it was the right call, the right direction. In this case, we took the input from the racers. We actually had 2 teams test the 500 RPM reduction, not with firmware, but obviously knowing that, hey, I'm trying to make this run and stay under 9,500. They threw the absolute kitchen sink at it of parts they already had in the trailer. And those total parts would have totaled $27,000 if they went and bought them. And so they threw it all at it with the 500 RPM change, and they were 700ths behind, and shared that data. And so again, very quickly, it wasn't just looking at it and go, oh, that was a bad decision. We actually had supporting data to back up and go, hey, our major goal with ProCharger, with Centrifugal, currently ProCharger, our main goal is to get them off 2775. And again, nobody's got a great answer of how we do that. Maybe we do that with a smaller head unit. Maybe we do that with a more obstructed blower, but nonetheless, we are going to get there. We look forward to that for 2023, that we will no longer have a 2,775 pound Pro Mod car running 250 mile an hour. So that is our major goal. Exactly. And so that's again, it's a big ship. It turns slow. But people that with NHRA, if you go to the bow of the ship and look, it really looks like we're still going in a straight line. But I ask, if you'll go to the tail of the ship, you can see a slight turn in direction that we are trying to move forward in an absolute great fashion, keep the momentum of any category moving along, and try to not affect the pocketbook any more than we have to as we do this and move forward to a better place in time. Very well said, mate. As I said at the start of our conversation,
I wouldn't have your job for all the money in the world. I'm grateful to you looking after the class that we all hold so dear. And hopefully the proof will be in the pudding. We'll see what happens. We'll see who turns up with what in the trail and where are we going next? Topeka. And again, thank you so much. Hopefully we will have an awesome race, and we might come back and have a real mid-season conversation and see how you went.
I'll take the tough questions, and I look forward to the good days. So again, Brent, thank you for what you do in promotion of not only the sport in general, but Pro Mod as a category. And we look forward to continued positivity to move forward. And we want to thank all the sponsors and everybody that supports the category. And if you've not been to NHRA Pro Mod or not been here in a while, I invite you back personally. Come back, see what we're about, and see if we are headed in the right direction.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, race fans. Thank you so much for staying here with us so far. We have got a very special guest in the studio today. We've chased him for a couple of days. He's been testing at Galot, not his own car, from what I didn't even know at the time, but I've seen thanks to some footage on the web. Mr. Lyle Barnett, the only twin turbo car in NHRA racing today. Thank you for your time, mate.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you having me on. The Lone Ranger, as we call ourselves. We're just out there doing it on our own.
Now, it would be remiss of me not to have a sly shot at you. I hope that's the right vernacular in America. It's very Australian. I interviewed you at Charlotte with the 4 wides, and you told me how I've totally got this 4 wide staging thing worked out. It's all good. I've got my program. And then Stan went up there and got as lost as, what do y'all say? As lost as a dog in long grass. And it all turned to strawberry jam.
Yeah. And, and still we managed to perform better than the other 3 as far as leaving the starting line. I was 150 or so better than Chris Thorne leaving the starting line, but we had a mechanical parts failure and caused us just to come up, 300 short of our first win of the 2022 season. So we still, I feel like, had the standout performance on the starting line at the 4 wides, but that final round, if you haven't seen it, go watch it, is everything that is wrong with 4 wide drag racing. I'm one of those drivers that absolutely despises 4 wide. As a real drag racing fan, you have to feel like you're being cheated a little bit. 4 fuel cars is cool, but loud is loud, and it's hard to watch all that at one time.
Yes, sir.
For your for your generic, just automotive fan, I guess maybe it's cool once, but I think overall it's just not it for me. It's the worst race of the year. I would rather race in Darlington, South Carolina when it's 9,000 degrees and the track's 180 than race 4 wide. So, and that's saying something.
Wow. Okay. So we've started on a controversial note straight away. Nothing to do with what we were going to talk about. So yeah, look, I mean, I jump backwards and forwards between the 4 wides as a drag racer, as a fan, as a media person. One day I love it, the next day I hate it, the next day I love it. It's incredibly hard to try and be standing on the start line and watch 4 of you all go down the racetrack. You're right. But I still get a kick out of being 10 feet from 4 cars.
Oh yeah,
that are the greatest things on the planet. So that's very cool. But the 4 wide's over, done and dusted for this year. So let's move forward to what we're really here to talk about today, and that is we're approaching the halfway point of the NHRA season. More controversy than any other year almost, especially in the last couple of weeks. We initially wanted to talk about where the points are, and we're going into the mid-race of the season at Topeka, and then the following weekend, the big $60,000 shootout for Pro Mod bought by D-Wagon at the zoo. Talk to me a little bit about your own stuff for a start, mate. I mean, as you said, you're the Lone Ranger. Turbo cars were the absolute lay-down choice 3 years ago. Now, all of a sudden, nobody was doing it. You came out, won a couple of races last year, and all of a sudden breathed some life back into that twin turbo combination.
Yeah, we really did it just out of just pure hopes and dreams that we could turn our program around. We struggled last year with the Pro Charge deal. The program, it just wasn't headed in the direction we wanted to go. I was discouraged. The team was discouraged. And the Hairston family at dinner in Charlotte in the fall. So the September race of last year, we're at dinner in the elite pits. And Jake Hairston, who is, crew chief and tuner for Elite's pro stock program, him and his dad and brother owned the car that I now drive. And it's the same car Erica drove in Pro Mod when she set the speed record, the same one that caught on fire that they fixed and put back together. And they're like, dude, just bring the turbo car back out. Like, what? I mean, how could it be any worse? And I'm like, well, and turbo is that combination is really what I love. It's primarily what I drive. And so we brought it back out, and immediately it was the best decision we ever made. We go to the very first race with it, win Dallas, struggled a little bit in Bristol. And then we finished the season out with a whole shot win over JR in Vegas, and I had extremely high hopes. It seemed like the rule package was kind of headed in our favor. We go to Gainesville, didn't qualify great, but felt like I had a good side of the ladder. Met up with Chris Thorne in the second round, and I turned it red. He went on to win. And so far this year, we've just kind of been up and down. We go to Charlotte, obviously got a final round appearance, ended up runner-up, really should have won. Didn't do so great in Norwalk. So in Virginia, I think we had the car to beat, up against Stevie Jackson in the first round, the two-time champion. We're really good friends. I consider him one of my best friends in the racing industry, and he tuned my stuff when I was young in X275. So we have a long history. I was jacked up, and I went up there and turned it 007 red, and ran low for race day that run. So that was a tough one to swallow. And we're still fourth in the points, and I still have a legit shot at the championship. But somebody has to put a stop to Chris Thorne. He's won 3 of 4, probably would have won all 4, but he turned it red in the semifinals, I think, in Virginia. But he's they've got a great program over there. He's a great driver. Jamie Miller's great behind the keyboard. And right now they've got us by the cojones, man. It's going to be tough to catch him if we can't stop him in the first round here in the early part of the second half of the season. He's got a pretty commanding lead right now.
Yeah, well, he's just a little over 100 points ahead of Tricky Ricky. We'll come to that conversation in a moment. But I mean, that's 5 rounds, and so that's a complete race. He doesn't show up at. Somebody top qualifies. Somebody gets all the low qualifier points, goes on to win, and they're still possibly going to be behind him.
Yeah. And that's when I say he's going to have to go out first round at a couple races. And if you've watched Chris Thorne at all, that dude doesn't go out first round much. If he does, he'll either turn it red or somebody may catch him napping and get lucky. But he qualifies good and they race as good as anybody. I applaud my team and think we race really well as well. But so far this year, Chris has qualified well and he's raced even better. So, it'll take a group effort to take that dude down. But is it doable? Absolutely. But when you're talking about somebody like Chris Thorne and the team he's got, it's not going to be an easy task, and it may take him not showing up to a race for us to truly, gain some ground on him.
Now, I don't think he's not going to show up to a race, not in the position he's in at the moment.
Probably not.
He is driving the hot to trot, pro charge deal that everyone's complaining. He's got 2.5 numbers on the rest of the field.
Yeah.
Mate, you work in the racing industry. You were testing a Pro Charge car, if I'm not mistaken, yesterday for a customer. I'm going to say something relatively controversial because I know that the people in the know can pull me apart with some statistics and some facts, but this is a fact. We have 5 power adders in the bracket. Mm-hmm. First is a Pro Charger. Second is a nitrous car. Third is a guy who can't decide whether he's a Who Charger or a Roots Charger. Fourth is your good self with twin turbos, and 5th is a Screw Charger.
Mm-hmm.
2 out of the top 10 are Roots blown, so that's 20%. We've got 5 power adders, so 1 power adder is 20% of the field. How can you all be crying that there's no parity, that the pro charges got too much, the screw had to get hammered, blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. I'm just opening the conversation. The layman fan looks at that and goes, well, man, you got 5 power adders, and the 5 power adders are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Mm-hmm.
Where's the problem?
When you look at it like that, it does look, to be very fair, but we look at it a lot deeper than that.
Yes.
We've got, analytics and sheets and all this stuff that we look at, and in every race it's analyzed, and we all talk about it. There is no denying that the turbo combination is at a disadvantage. And you, Ned Wallister, Lonnie Grim, Ricky Smith, Stevie ain't nobody going to convince me otherwise. We race well. You can look this year, we haven't qualified great at all. We just have raced decent. I haven't even raced that good. I've been to the finals once and run it up. Been out in the second round twice, I think, and then I red lit first round in Virginia. So I went out first round in Ohio as well. So, we really haven't even raced that good. We've just been there when it counted at times. So, there are some who cry more than others, and it's one of those squeaky wheel gets the grease type situations. Chris Thorne, he's got a couple number 1 qualifiers. He's won all but 1 race. It's hard to argue that he doesn't have an advantage, but I personally think he just has outraced us most of the time. They haven't always outran everybody. He wasn't the number 1 qualifier in Norwalk. They're consistent. He drives very well, and they just go up and down the racetrack. Do I think that Stevie has proven that the screw rules package is a little bit out in left field? Yeah. And he'll admit that. And maybe he did. I think you said you talked to him. Yes. I think he will admit that he brought the screw out to prove that they better get a hold of it pretty quick, or everybody's going to run a screw blower and we're just going to be top alcohol funny car.
Yeah.
And that's, the huge attraction to Pro Mod, right, is that there are 5 power adders, and you named them all, and we're all in the top 5.
So
and that's what makes it stand out.
Does that not go to the controversial point of, cowboy up, get at the start line, run the best race you can run the racetrack, run your car, cut the light, and any of you can win with any set of rules on any given day?
It looks
I know that's a very
yeah,
smart ass comment from somebody who hadn't got a dog in the fight, but you know what I'm saying?
It looks that way. It does look that way. But I think that the 5 power adders represented in the top 5 are the 5 best to represent that power adder. I'm the only one. Ricky's the only one, with the exception of when Tyler shows up with a nitrous car.
Yep.
But I think the 5 that are there are the 5, best to represent that power adder. And part of it is that they race good, and then it is easy to argue that parity is close. It's not, and I think it'll get there, but you're going to see some, the NHRA is going to take some heat here over these next couple months, I think, over some rule changes they've made. And they're doing it for the betterment of the class. They're not doing it to try to make us spend money. They're not doing it to try to favor anybody. They make changes, fly by night style, and they're just trying to do the best to keep parity, as close as they can. You see a lot of people talk about NHRA is killing the class, changing the rules all the time. Well, I can't argue with you there because it seems to change them after every race. But all they're trying to do is keep it as close as possible, because opposed to the other pro categories, the majority of the racers in this class are self-funded. And, if they feel that they don't have a chance to win, they just won't show up. They don't have any sponsors to please. So they just won't show up, and so you got to be a little more careful. There's no sponsor breathing down your back to be at the next race. If they feel like they're 4 or 5 numbers behind and they're going to go to Topeka, Kansas and get their teeth kicked in, they just won't crank the rig. And it's no skin off their back. Hell, it saves them money.
Yeah.
So a little bit different situation with Pro Mod, and you got to treat it a little different. And I think the NHRA is doing the best they can. I don't always think they make the best decisions. I don't always think they consult with the very people that support the class like they should, to make sure that the rule changes that they are about to implement are the right rule changes. I think there are some things they could do to make life easier for everyone involved, but it's not my pig, not my farm. So, it's their sandbox. And if we want to play, we abide by their rules and we show up and park where they tell us to park and show up for Q1. So that's what we're going to keep doing. I've heard rumors about people threatening not to show up and this, that, and the other. And I don't know, man, it kind of reminds me of, when you were in those little clubs when you're in elementary school, well, when we go to the playground, we're not coming because you didn't give us the purple popsicle. So, it is what it is. I think they'll still show up too, but I guess only time will tell when we get to Topeka.
Exactly. With reference to, you believe their heart's in the right place. Maybe they're changing rules a little often. I mean, for those who are old enough and have loved this class since its inception, it was hard enough with keeping parity when there was only a roots blower and a nitrous bottle. There was only two. There was only two power adders, and there was constantly, oh, my power adder's at a disadvantage. No, mine's at a disadvantage. I want more. I want less. He's cheating. He's sandbagging. Blah blah blah. Now you got 5 of the damn things. I mean, I'm surprised that we're not changing rules twice between rounds.
Yeah, and we had a meeting with NHRA last year in Indy, in my pit actually, and Stevie Jackson, the Janis guys, all the people that if there's talk about a blower going on, you close your mouth and open your ears. And they told them that bringing the screw charger in was a bad idea. We all unanimously voted in my pit. All the drivers were there. Most of the crew and crew chiefs and members were there. There was a unanimous no when asked if we wanted the screw charger in for 2022, and here it is. I think that there was some fear about letting the Pro Charger in, and they've struggled for a year and a half now to wrangle it, to get it back in. So I think there is some value if they would listen to us as racers when we tell them something, and so far, and look, again, I'm not bashing the very sanctioning body that I race for. I love racing for the NHRA. It's a great place to go. I think they put on an excellent show, but I don't always feel like they really value what we say as racers and as the ones that support the class. Should they? I think so. But again, not my pig, not my farm. So
yeah, but I mean, to go back to we're all drag racers, we will argue that ours needs more, the other guy needs less. We want to go faster. We'll all turn up no matter what. And I think you hit the nail on the head. Stevie certainly did a minute ago when we were talking to him. Their heart's in the right place. They want it. I believe they want it to work. Mm-hmm. Perhaps the mechanics of how they're getting there aren't fast enough or aren't well enough oiled. I'm not sure exactly how you want to put that, but
I just don't think the people that are making the decisions, one, they don't race, or maybe they do, but they don't race Pro Mod, and they don't know financially, first and foremost, what it takes for us to fire that rig up and drive to Brainerd, right? Let's take parts attrition. Let's take everything out of the equation.
Haven't put the race car on the track yet.
That costs money once we're parked, right?
Yep.
Just to get there. I estimate that trip it will cost well north of $10,000 by the time you stay, pay for fuel, and so we go to Topeka first. Well, the rig's not coming home, which is going to save money, but then there's flights involved. That's a super expensive swing for a class that doesn't get enough TV time, that it costs well north of $500,000 a year to run, so when you're talking about what it cost, just the pure cost, and us not getting enough exposure through TV and whatnot to attract these big corporate sponsors, so most of us are self-funded, man, it's hard to make that trip when you don't feel like you can go there and win, And so, and I know that, like Stevie said, and the point I was trying to make, I think their heart is there, but they're not considering everything when they make these decisions and what it's going to cost some of these teams to make the changes to overcome the rule change they just made. They think that, let's just say, slowing the Pro Charger down, that everybody's just going to change the gear set and they're going to show up to the track with everything else the same. Not at all. They're going to change maybe everything from camshaft, compression ratio, converter, gear sets in the transmission, possibly rear gear if it's still allowed. There's all kinds of things things from front to tail that change in order to try to overcome the rule change that they've made. And that's across the board. You know, if they took another 3 pounds of boost for me or gave me 3 more pounds, we would inevitably have to make changes to the car to compensate for that. So,
all right, I'll play devil's advocate. They're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't. If they don't try and reel in the screw, if they don't try and reel in the Pro Charger, if they don't try and give the Roots guys, 25 pounds an advantage, we're all going to be sitting here bitching that, well, they've let that run away with the class. That combination's untouchable. So they go and make the changes that we all think maybe is going to make it competitive. And then you got to go and spend $35,000 to adhere to the new advantage that you've been given by the rule change.
So, and, I don't want to see it go to a single power adder, but that is an easy way to fix that.
Nobody wants to see that.
Nobody wants to see it. If they gave everybody screw blowers and that's all you could run, you could fix a lot of this, but that's not what anybody wants to see. Like, I want to keep my turbos. I love them, Am I at a disadvantage? Yes, but everybody likes a challenge and I love them, but, and we don't want to get too far off the beaten path here, but, there's been talk about taking it to 8th mile. Absolutely not. If I want to rate, and I love Tyler Crossnow, I love the PDRA and everybody that's associated with it. If I'm going to run 8th mile Pro Mod, I'm just going to go race PDRA and all my buddies. I race NHRA because it's quarter mile, it's 250 miles an hour, and it's what the fans want to see. Would it fix the car count? Absolutely, for a little bit.
But then it'd kill the class.
Yep. It's gonna, it would peak for a second. And back down the hole it goes.
Let's talk about some positive stuff. We've got a couple of weeks before you head to the halfway point in Topeka. You are, less than a round behind Stevie to get into 3rd?
Yeah.
But quite a few rounds behind Ricky and Chris, of course. But, it is a very exciting time in NHRA Pro Mod. We're all talking about it, whether it be right, wrong, indifferent. I've got a disadvantage. He's got an advantage.
That's all.
All press is good press.
That's right. If NHRA Pro Mod is in your mind and coming out of your mouth, we've done something right so far, whether the NHRA has done the right thing or not. But I do, Brett, I do believe that I'm in a good shot to be talked about contending for the championship in Dallas. We're going to have to race really well. We cannot make many, if any, mistakes for the rest of the year, and I hope I've gotten most of those out of the way. We're going to need Chris Thorne to fumble a couple times.
Yep.
And I think that's really going to be the make or break for all of us who have a shot at winning the championship is what Chris Thorne does in the back half of the season. If he continues to run half as good as he's running right now, you'll never catch him. But this is racing. It's not, they call it racing for a reason. It's not, it's not winning. So he's going to have to, he can make a few more mistakes than us, but he better not make too many because there's several of us that are waiting for him to do it to take advantage of it. So I hope my name's in the hat in Dallas. I'll be honest, I'm in some financial trouble as far as making the rest of the season. I've got some stuff that I'm working on, but it's going to be really tough for me to make it the rest of the season if we don't get some help. So not my plea or an I'm broke call out there, but if there's anybody out there who is interested in riding on the turbo car, I could use it to make it to Dallas.
Well, it would definitely hurt the class if we lost a character like you and the twin turbo combination Lone Ranger, as you like to say. Right. So the mid-season race is coming up at Topeka. Once that's out of the way, how much extra pressure does this big dollar shootout add at the following race at the zoo? D-Wagon have stepped up. It's going to be a $60,000 weekend for Pro Modified. All of a sudden, qualifying isn't qualifying anymore because I'm running for some decent money every time I put the car on the track. Is that going to be a trigger or a tripper for some of these guys?
I think you're going to see a complete change in the qualifying sheet come Sunday morning in Brainerd. But before we get into that, I want to thank Doug Winters and everybody at D-Wagon for all that they've done, not only for the D-Wagon shootout, but for the Pro Mod class as a whole for the 2022 season. Doug, my crew chief and owner here at Modern, Justin Elks, Eric Dillard, Phil Schuler. There's several of them who have worked really, really hard this year to make NHRA Pro Mod the most well-funded sanctioning body for pro modified cars in the world. So a huge shout out to those guys. But I think on Sunday morning, you're going to see a mix up on the qualifying sheet like you probably haven't seen all year. You're not going to see these guys go up there after making a decent run or two in Q1 and Q2 and hit a home run. There's going to be some strategy played because we're talking about racing for real money. You know, and Stevie and I were talking at Galat yesterday when we were testing, and I told him, I said, dude, it's as important for me to win that race so I can fund and go to the next one as it is just to be there, period. You know, like I need to win to fund myself, you know, and so and we're going there, you know, loaded for bear and with intentions of winning the race. Am I worried about qualifying number one? Absolutely not, because I've won from the 12 spot, you know, in NHRA Pro Mod. You don't have to qualify up top to win. But we are going there with a strategy to try and win the D-Wagon shootout. An awesome deal that they put on. It's at the most lively and energetic racetrack surrounding Pro Mod in the world, or in the nation for sure. Those people there love some Pro Mod. And they and the, you know, the zoo, it's the Talladega Boulevard of drag racing, and I'm excited. I've never been there, so this is going to be a first for me, and arguably the biggest Pro Mod race that Brainerd's ever seen. So I'm pumped.
All right, mate. We'll end it there, and thank you so much for your time.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Brett.